Your AI tool just built your app in 15 minutes. Cool. But your security tools, they still think it's 2018. Everyone is vibe coding these days using platforms like Replit, V0, Bolt by simply prompting the agents and asking them to build something. But these apps are filled with security vulnerabilities. Now, when you run traditional code scanning tools like Semgrep on these vibe coded code bases, they can't find certain vulnerability classes like authorization bugs, IDOR or insecure direct object references, business logic issues, race conditions, so on and so forth. This is because traditional scanners don't understand the context, and hence most of the vulnerabilities that they report are either low severity vulnerabilities or non-exploitable theoretical findings that vibe coders simply don't care about. That's why we can't just scan files anymore. We need something more. We need something innovative. We need something by thinking out of the box. We basically need agentic security, which means we have multiple AI agents looking at the app like a security engineer would. Architecture first, data flow next, and then code. In this video, I'll show you why vibe-coded apps slip past traditional scanners, where the real risks are, and how an AI multi-agent pipeline, like what I built with SecureVibes, actually finds the stuff that normal tools miss. Alright, so first things first, this is a vulnerable application that I've built intentionally by introducing certain vulnerabilities in it. So I expect security code scanning tools to find them. You can clone it. You can take a look at the code base. It's available on my GitHub account. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start this application locally. You can see that I am in that repo. I have the latest code. I will first start off by creating a virtual environment. I will activate that. I think I need Flask for this, so I'll install Flask and then I'll just start it, right? So the application starts on port 5001. So if I come here, if I refresh, okay, cool. Looks like a pretty standard application with an authentication screen. I currently have two users, admin and users. So if I log in as admin, you can see that the role is admin, and then the admin has the ability to change the roles of different users. And then the other role is the user, and then you can see that the user clearly does not have any privileges to change user roles. And now as a user, right, there are certain API endpoints that I think this is one. So this is an API endpoint. API profile 2 represents the integer of this particular user, and you can see that it discloses information about this particular user, which is fine. However, if I change this and if I decrease it, make it 1, the user can now see admin's information, right? So this is a very classic IDOR security vulnerability, whereby just changing or iterating through a series of numbers or integers, user A can get user B's information, low privilege user can get a higher privilege user information, like what we saw here. So clearly this application is vulnerable. I just showed one particular API endpoint that has the IDOR issue, right? I also have the logs showing up here, so you can see that as I logged in and logged out, they all kind of show up here. Okay, cool. So the next thing that I want to do is to run a traditional open source code scanning tool like Semgrep on it, right? Okay, so let's go to the app again. Okay, so I'm just going to do Semgrep scan and scan the current code base, right? So it loads the rules from the registry. I believe this is the open source registry, basic security coverage, right? Okay, so it came back with 7 findings. Let's take a look at what these findings look like. MD5 used as password. Password hash is MD5. Debug code Flask. The application is running debug code. I think this is the same thing here. yeah, this is the same thing here. No CSRF token, no CSRF token. So that's it, right? So it clearly did not find the IDOR issue, which I showed earlier. And in order to show that the issue actually exists in the code base, let's take a look at the code itself. So this is the app.py file, and here you can see that there is an endpoint API user which takes in an integer, and then there's a profile routes file which again has another API endpoint that takes API profile. There are two different endpoints, and I'd be curious to see if both of them are actually vulnerable. So let's verify that really quick. So one is API profile one, which we verified the user can see admins account. And then if I do user one, okay, so you can clearly see that by changing profile to user, the user can also see or hit the other API endpoint as well. So there are at least two API endpoints that have the IDOR issue, and we just saw that running a very basic Semgrep scan on it did not find it. Cool. Okay, so this is clearly a problem with traditional open source static analysis tools. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run SecureVibes on this code base and see if it finds it. Okay, so I will have to install SecureVibes first. So let's just install that. And if I do the version, so this is the latest version, sounds good. And then I am going to simply scan it. So I already have the Anthropic API key exported in my environment, so I'm not providing it right now. And I'm just going to scan the code base with the debug flag to see all the output. Now this scan might take some time, so I'm going to speed up the video so that you don't have to sit and watch. So the scan kicked off. It is using the Sonnet model. So you can see that the first phase is the architecture assessment, where it will basically go through the code base. It will try to identify the data flow, the trust boundaries, the application architecture, the technology stack, different components, all of that stuff. And it should produce a security.md file in the end. Okay, so looks like it was able to create that security.md file. Let's take a look at it to see what's inside that file. So it figured out that it's a Flask application that provides user management functionality with role-based access control. This application allows users to authenticate, view a dashboard of users, manage user profiles, and update user roles. It implements a simple authentication system with admin and regular user roles. It's pretty accurate. And then it draws this architecture diagram depicting the interaction between the client and the server. This all looks pretty accurate to me. And then it also shows the interaction with the database itself via the SQL queries and then the SQLite database. So I think it did a pretty good job of representing what the application is about. It goes into technology stack, different API endpoints, the form input fields, details about authentication, how password is being verified, the login flow itself, also the authorization mechanisms. So it was able to go through the code and understand how authorization is happening in it, which is pretty cool. Different role types, and then it already identified some authorization issues by just looking at the code base and by creating this security.md file. So if, you can clearly see that, the two API endpoints that we first discovered, right, they're already flagged by just doing the architecture assessment. We haven't even started looking at the code base. So this is pretty cool, right? Like we can just stop here and just look at this file. But anyways, and then it kind of documents how the data is flowing between different components. It just keeps going on, and this is pretty impressive, right? For just kind of providing a code base to a coding agent, and the coding agent being able to produce this is wild. So yeah, anyways, so that was done. If we come back here, so the next phase is to do a stride analysis. Stride is a methodology of doing threat modeling. So now it is taking that security MD file, whatever we saw, and then it's actually doing threat modeling based on the information that is present in that markdown file. So let's wait to see what that outcome looks like. Okay, so looks like it wrote the threat model.json file as well. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so this is a lot of stuff. So you can see that it identified different threats, right? Each threat has an ID, a category, a title, a description, the severity, affected components, attack scenario, vulnerability types, and mitigation. So all of this um, is being provided by the coding agent. I just asked it to do a straight threat modeling on it. Um, there is a prompt of what the threat modeling agent uses to do threat modeling. So if you're interested, you can go and take a look at that prompt. But uh, the coding agent being able to provide this information is super impressive, and you can see that it did call out the IDOR issue in the user details API. It called out privilege escalation as well. It called out another IDOR issue, right? Um, yeah, and it called out a bunch of other stuff as well as part of the threat modeling of the application. Okay. Um, the third phase is the code review phase, or the security analysis, where it takes in the threat model JSON file and then it actually goes and tries to validate whether whatever threats have been enumerated, right, they actually align with what's in the code itself. So now it is actually going through the files and verifying that whatever threats are present in the JSON file, it can actually identify where exactly in the code base they exist. So it's going through that right now. Okay, so it looks like it created the vulnerabilities.json file. So let's look at what that looks like. Okay, so yeah, you can see that as compared to the previous threat model file, it now has the file path, the line number, the code snippet, and the evidence. So the code review agent clearly took the data from the threat model JSON, and it then went and validated each of those in the code itself. So this is pretty cool as well. And then finally, the fourth phase, since I'm not running a SAST agent to validate the exploitation as well, the fourth phase is just a report generation phase. So it's going to take all of the files and it's going to curate two files, one a JSON and one in a markdown format, and then we can see what that looks like as well. Okay, so looks like the report generation phase also completed. It costed me about $1.2, and it produced two reports. So let's take a look at what those look like. Scan results. Yeah, so this looks pretty similar to the vulnerabilities, right? There's a thread ID, title description, file path number, code snippet, recommendation, evidence. So it all makes sense. And then the markdown file looks pretty straightforward as well. And then I believe if we go all the way up, so you can clearly see that it found 30 findings as compared to Semgrep's 7. And out of these 30, it definitely found the user details API IDOR issue. It found the profile API, right? And then it found a bunch of other stuff as well. So this is pretty clear why an approach like this using a coding agent on code bases is much needed, especially for vibe coded applications. I mean, I understand, this is a tool I wouldn't recommend enterprises to use, just because enterprises have different requirements, uh, different restrictions, and a whole bunch of other issues. But if you're a vibe coder and if you've vibe coded an app and if you've gotten it to a stage where you're ready to release it and you want customers to start using it, you definitely want to get some kind of a security review on it, right? And you would only want to care about issues that are contextual to the application and things that are actually worth fixing. You don't need to know anything about security. You could just use your Anthropic API key with the SecureVibes tool, and sorry about this, and SecureVibes will find these kind of issues for you. So yes, one more thing. So how does SecureVibe actually work? So maybe uh, we can spend a little bit of time on that, the architecture. So if you come to this repository, there's a docs directory and there's a bunch of documents here if you're interested. But if we take a look at the architecture diagram, it's a very a basic architecture. There's nothing fancy going on. The only fancy thing is here is that it uses a bunch of agents in the Claude Agents SDK, right? And so all the phases that you saw, each phase is performed by an agent. So yeah, so there's the assessment agent that creates a security.md file using these tools, and then that gets passed onto the next agent, which is a threat modeling agent. It reads that file and then it creates the threat model.json file, which then passes it to the next agent, which is a code review agent. This agent reads these files and then it creates the vulnerabilities.json with access to these tools. It needs access to these tools in order to search through the code repository. And then finally, the report generator agent kind of takes all the artifacts and it creates the scan results.json and then the markdown file as well. And then this is the DAST agent, which I'll cover in the next video. It's an optional phase. It's an optional agent. If you simply want to get an idea about security vulnerabilities affecting your vibe coded applications, you don't need to use this agent. But I'll walk through what this agent is capable of doing and how you can use this agent in the next video. So hopefully I have been able to demonstrate why an AI native security system is needed in today's age when vibe coding is a thing. And as a security professional, when I see these uh, super functional, highly valuable vibe coded applications filled with security vulnerabilities, it breaks my heart. So hopefully the secure vibes can help solve some of these problems. If you enjoyed this video and if you want to continue following me, please like, share, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.